The Showdown at 30,000 feet. The cabin of Flight 512 hummed with the usual pre-flight chaos. Passengers stowing bags, flight attendants weaving through the aisles, and the low drone of jet engines warming up. But in row 12, a storm was brewing. Eleanor Thompson, a woman in her late 50s with a sharp tongue and a flair for drama, stood in the aisle, her face flushed with indignation. She clutched her midsection, her loose dress accentuating what appeared to be a pregnancy bump, and pointed accusingly at seat 12A. "My rights come first," she bellowed, her voice cutting through the cabin. "Switch seats with me, or I'm calling 911. Her phone was already raised, the emergency call ringing loud enough for everyone to hear. Seated calmly in 12A was Margaret Hayes, a poised woman in her early 50s, 7 months pregnant and radiating quiet strength. Her dark hair was tied back in a neat ponytail, her travel clothes practical yet polished. She adjusted her position carefully, her genuine pregnancy evident, and met Eleanor's gaze without flinching. "No tears, no begging," Margaret said firmly. "I'm requesting a flight integrity check, verification of seat 12A, and airport police assistance." She placed a sleek, unmarked silver card on her tray table, its presence sending a ripple of unease through the cabin. The flight attendant, Susan Carter, froze, her eyes darting between the two women. Eleanor smirked, but her confidence wavered as Margaret's calm authority shifted the dynamic. The tension was palpable, thick enough to choke on. Passengers craned their necks, some whispering, others pulling out phones despite airline rules. What had started as a simple seat dispute was spiraling into something far bigger, something that would expose lies, test loyalties, and change lives. Eleanor Thompson wasn't new to this game. For months, she'd used a realistic pregnancy prosthetic, purchased online, to manipulate airline staff into giving her priority boarding, upgrades, and special treatment. She'd bribed gate agent Daniel Brooks with a crisp $50 bill to secure seat 12A, claiming medical needs for her high-risk pregnancy. The scam had worked flawlessly at 4 airports already, with passengers and crew bending over backward for her supposed condition. But today, she'd met her match. Margaret Hayes was no ordinary passenger. A senior advocate with the Federal Transportation Oversight Commission, she was conducting a stress test to expose weaknesses in airline passenger protection systems. Her silver card, an ombudsman's liaison credential, carried weight that few understood but none could ignore. As she arranged her documents with meticulous precision, boarding passes, medical clearances, legal forms, her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with Eleanor's escalating theatrics. Susan Carter, a veteran flight attendant with a decade of experience, felt her stomach knot. Her supervisor, Linda Grayson, had been texting furiously, demanding the flight stay on schedule to avoid negative publicity. But the silver card on Margaret's tray table triggered a memory from a long-ago training seminar, something about federal oversight that outranked airline policy. Susan's hands trembled as she reached for the internal communication phone, unsure whether to call ground control or security first. In row 15, Robert Klein, a crisis management consultant in his 60s, sensed trouble brewing. He'd seen disputes like this spiral into PR disasters, and his phone was already recording audio, a habit honed from years of documenting corporate missteps. The contrast between Eleanor's aggressive demands and Margaret's measured responses told him this wasn't a simple argument. It was a legal showdown. Eleanor doubled down, clutching her midsection dramatically. "I'm having contractions," she shrieked, her voice rising to a pitch that silenced the cabin. "If you don't fix this, I'll make sure this flight is diverted." Her finger hovered over her phone's redial button, the 911 call now disconnected, but her threat lingering. Passengers exchanged glances, some sympathetic, others skeptical. An elderly couple in row 10 whispered about the stress on both pregnant women, while a businessman in row 8 checked his watch, annoyed at the delay. Margaret, unfazed, slid her silver card towards Susan. "I'm requesting a flight integrity check under federal aviation protocols," she said, her voice steady. "We have 15 minutes before departure, makes verification impossible." Susan's heart raced as she recognized the card's significance, an ombudsman's credential, rarely seen but impossible to ignore. Eleanor scoffed, snapping photos of the card with her phone. "Some fake VIP pass?" she sneered. My medical needs trump your tricks. Robert stood, his voice cutting through the tension. Under the Air Carrier Access Act, no passenger has automatic priority over assigned seating based on pregnancy status, he said, his tone authoritative. All accommodations must be verified through proper protocols. His words shifted the cabin's mood, passengers murmuring as they realized this was no ordinary dispute. The situation escalated when Owen Parker, a maintenance engineer deadheading in row 22, opened his laptop. I can check the electronic flight bag records, he offered, accessing the airline's internal systems. Within minutes, he uncovered a bombshell. Someone with gate agent credentials modified seat 12 as assignment 2 hours ago, without medical clearance or supervisor approval. The cabin fell silent, all eyes on Eleanor, whose face paled. Eleanor's performance grew frantic. "This is ridiculous," she shouted, clutching her midsection. "I'm having a medical emergency, and you're obsessed with paperwork." But passengers were noticing inconsistencies. Her bump shifted unnaturally when she moved. Robert continued recording, narrating for clarity. Federal law protects passengers from having their reservations altered without due process. Susan, caught between her supervisor's threats and Margaret's federal authority, contacted ground control. Flight 512 requesting supervisor assistance for seating verification, she said, her voice shaky. The response came quickly. Linda Grayson was en route, and Owen's findings had triggered a formal investigation. As Linda stormed down the jetway, her voice boomed. "This investigation ends now. Ms. Hayes, your credentials are under review, and further delays will get you removed." Her threat hung heavy, but Margaret didn't flinch. "I'm requesting Ombudsman's liaison conference protocols with three-party mediation," she countered. "Every action must be recorded and read aloud." The cabin buzzed with shock. Passengers realized they were witnessing a rare federal procedure, one designed to prevent corporate cover-ups. Eleanor's facade cracked. "This is persecution," she screamed, dialing her phone dramatically. "I'm calling my lawyer. You're all discriminating against a pregnant woman." But her call went to voicemail, and passengers noticed. A retired teacher, Clara Evans, in row 10, whispered to her husband, George, "Something's off. She doesn't seem genuine." Meanwhile, a software engineer, Michael Reed, in row 8, leaned toward his wife, "Sarah, that bump doesn't look right. My sister was pregnant last year. It's not the same." The turning point came when Henry Larson, a distinguished man in his 70s from row 16, stood. 3 weeks ago, on a flight from Chicago to Dallas, this woman demanded my late wife's seat, he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "She used fake medical documents and threats to force my wife, who had mobility issues, into a middle seat." He showed photos from his phone, Eleanor, with the same prosthetic bump, bullying an elderly woman. The cabin erupted in murmurs, passengers' sympathy for Eleanor evaporating. Owen's laptop revealed another bombshell. The aircraft's weight sensors detected an anomaly consistent with artificial padding, not pregnancy. Gasps filled the cabin. Eleanor's face drained of color. "You're all conspiring against me," she screamed, but her words rang hollow against the technical evidence. Margaret, exhausted but resolute, announced, "I'm requesting immediate medical verification of Ms. Thompson's pregnancy status." Susan relayed the request to ground control, and within minutes, airport police and a medical team boarded. Paramedic Laura Bennett confirmed, "The passenger is wearing a prosthetic device. There's no pregnancy." Eleanor's deception collapsed as Officer David Sullivan read her rights. "You're under arrest for transportation fraud, medical impersonation, and civil rights violations." The cabin erupted in applause as Eleanor was escorted off the plane, her social media livestream, where she'd portrayed herself as a victim, now evidence against her. Margaret stood, addressing the passengers. "I'm Margaret Hayes, a senior advocate with the Federal Transportation Oversight Commission. This was a stress test to evaluate airline compliance with passenger rights." The revelation stunned the cabin. Passengers realized they'd witnessed a meticulously planned operation to expose fraud and protect vulnerable travelers. 6 months later, the impact of Flight 512 was undeniable. Eleanor faced 12 counts of federal fraud, her criminal enterprise exposed as a sophisticated scheme targeting elderly and disabled passengers. Margaret's stress test led to her promotion as Director of Passenger Rights Enforcement, and her educational fund trained thousands in their legal protections. Susan was promoted to Integrity Training Coordinator, and Owen became Head of Technical Ethics, revolutionizing fraud detection systems. The airline launched the Integrity Row initiative, ensuring proper verification for accommodation requests. Linda Grayson and Daniel Brooks faced prosecution for obstruction and bribery, their careers ruined. Henry Larson became an advocate for elderly passenger rights, honoring his late wife's memory. Clara and George Evans volunteered as trainers, while Michael and Sarah Reed founded a nonprofit to support fraud victims. A young journalist, Emily Carter, was praised for ethically documenting the incident, her footage used in journalism schools. Flight 512's cabin became a training facility, Seat 12, a symbol of empowerment. The stress test had transformed the airline industry, proving that knowledge and courage could defeat manipulation and injustice. What do you think about this story of deception and justice? Have you ever witnessed bullying or unfair treatment in everyday life, whether on a plane, at work, or in your community? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe standing up with knowledge and evidence is the best way to fight injustice? Take a stand and let us know your perspective.